Rosco here again. This case happened about a week after the Oni incident. A little explanation, I think, is needed before I get into my part in this case. Human trafficking was taking its toll in this community. Many children have been going missing, from 16 to as young as 6-year-olds. Local authorities have been working these cases, even setting up traffic control points across the town. Hell, you couldn't get in or out of town without going through one of them. My point is that they had security everywhere to ensure someone would be caught. I've even been brought into the station a few times. Apparently, being covered in blood is suspicious. Every endeavor ended roughly the same way. My superiors call the station and gives them what for. Oh, I never mentioned who I worked for. Technically, I can't talk about it, as I signed an NDA. However, I can tell you that the X-Files isn't the only game out there. Okay, back on track now. Where was I? Oh yeah. After my superiors contacted them, one of the local officers had asked me if there was any potential of the supernatch happening to these kids. I couldn't say for certain, but if something were to come up, to give me a call. I handed the young fellow my business card and continued with my day. I set up in this community as kind of an overwatch for the missing kid cases. These have been seen all over the country, and this town per capita had the most cases. 17 kids in less than a month. That's normal for a single community, even in the case of human trafficking. This has a finger nest written all over it. But normally they're sloppy and leave something behind. I couldn't make sense of any of it. Even a stakeout at a local elementary didn't pick up anything. That's when I got the call. It wasn't HQ like I had expected. No, it was Cheryl Rooker, loving mother of Eleanor Rooker. She got my number thanks to that dipshit deputy, thinking I might be able to help. Now, as a grieving parent myself, I understand the wanting to cover all possibilities, no matter how crazy they may seem. And I, being the gentleman of sorts that I am, told her that I'd take the case pro bono. Not that the agency had me out here anyways. But now that I have a direct line into the shit, I might as well take the opportunity. I make my way over to the Rooker residence. I was greeted by Cheryl, and she had informed me that Eleanor had taken from her room upstairs in the middle of the night a few days past. She allowed me to go up there and search for anything that could possibly lead to finding her. It was obvious the police were already here. They left this place a mess. DNA and fingerprints all over the place. I had to dig deep in the room, and of course ask her for permission before I did what I needed to do. Now before you guys start name calling and calling me an asshole for doing this, the one thing you should know about vamps is when they hunt, and not for food, they leave a mark in the victim's area or persons. Either a carving, maybe even a pheromone, something to signal a group to come pick this one up. And if that's the case, then this is bigger than I'd hoped. I began tearing into the closet, checking every nook and cranny, throwing everything into the hall that didn't belong in there. When I finished in the closet, I tore into the dresser. Maybe a set of clothes had something on it, or even something etched into the drawers. Nothing. And then I ripped apart the bed. That's when I found it. Right under the bed was a carving of what I'm going to assume is the Nest's family crest. It's a symbol to pick this child up and make her their own. The symbol was a shield with intricate dragons and a flag with stripes on the right and a crescent moon and star on the left. This is the family crest of Vlad Tepes. You know, Dracula. Yeah, he's real. We've been after that sumbitch for eons. About damn time we catch up to his nest of his. He fled what is now Romania back in the 1800s. He took up shop here in the States. He's been bouncing through communities ever since. This isn't a history lesson. That could be another time. That crest was a symbol I was afraid of. She had been taken, but not for food. To be turned. I had to tell Cheryl her daughter didn't have long, if any time at all. course, any parents in distress doesn't take the news lightly. And, being the gentleman of sorts that I am, I had to console her and give her the old "I'll find your daughter if it's the last thing I do" shtick. Yeah, if I could find her. This ain't no normal Fang clan I'm up against. They are keen on turning masses instead of just eating like smaller nests. They have also been known to kill their own. Hunting them down wouldn't be easy. Informing HQ did no good. All I got was a good luck speech, and maybe reinforcements will show up. I knew that all I could do was try and find and save Eleanor. If I was her only savior, I was going to need to get creative. When I got back to the room I was staying in, I started putting together some of my extra components that I lifted from HQ during my last visit. Thanks for that, by the way. I managed to hook up bait to trail cams and spend a good portion of the night placing them throughout town with the help of Deputy Fuckface, of course. I then proceeded to have him sit with me through the night, parked at the town hall just in case I needed to perform some less desirable acts. As much as he didn't want to, and with the constant bitching and complaining, I finally had to have a come to Jesus meeting with him. He already knew enough of what's out there. He's now accountable to help stop it. If it can be stopped. Whatever it is. We spent a good portion of the night monitoring the cameras, making sure not to disrupt the bait. Oh yeah, the bait. It was just raw meat. Regardless of their cause, a Fang still gotta eat. Half the hung bait was injected with a neutralizer, one of my own concoctions. I will not disclose the recipe. If we were going to find little Eleanor, we needed to hijack one of them things and get them to talk. Knowing that this is the Tepes clan, I'm sure my threats are nothing compared to Vlad's. I have to think on my feet. Can't let them get comfortable. It will need to be an on-the-spot interrogation. I had spent most of the time preparing Deputy Dumbass for what he'll encounter, and if he gets his ass bit, I'll have no choice but to put his ass down. I'd expect the same for me, preferably painless. Now, something you guys need to know about what kind of shit show we're getting ourselves into. Fangs in general are a nuisance. Too damn strong and too damn fast. But the Tepes clan is that on steroids. These are an elite family, and they don't just turn anyone. Some of the most sadistic figures in history have been members of this clan. I'll let you guess. If you guessed Jack the Ripper, Ed Gein, or H.H. Holmes, congratulations, you get a cookie. These are some of the more crafty and strategic things around. Our only hopes is that we catch a fresh turn and hope they talk. We caught some video feed, but it was pretty apparent that they knew these were setups. Shit. Now they knew someone was on their ass. Good thing Lady Luck shined on me that night. We managed to inoculate one of them with one of our drug bait cams. It was 6 blocks away, so we had to act fast. No doubt there would be a search party for all members real soon. I had Deputy drive while I hoofed it. Not that he needed to know why at the time, but if there's already a gang of them up there, by the time I made it, he could have drove off and led them away. Well, good thing that didn't need to happen. Deputy What's-His-Name was parked across the street when I made it to the down vamp. We loaded him into the trunk and drove off to a public pool. Now, if you ever need to get information from a Fang for any reason, using baptism as a threat is a great way to get info you need. We hung the Fang upside down over an Olympic-sized swimming pool that I had blessed with a wooden cross with the blood of the Pope. Yeah, he donates blood. Great guy. Once the Fang awoke, he started spouting absurdities, as most would do in his situation. I wasn't phased, though. The look on his face when he realized the amount of godly oh fuck he was hovering over. Man, if anything were a Kodak moment, this was it. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty proud of that one. Of course, he gave me all the information I wanted. He had no choice. I even made him a deal. If he could make it to the side of the pool, he was free to go. I cut the sumbitch's rope and watched him boil. Needless to say, he did not make it. So now we knew the location of the girl, and apparently Vlad himself asked for her. He was supposed to be on his way to town. Fang also said that she wasn't to be turned until his arrival. She was being saved for him. He's not due in town for another day. That bought us some time. She was located at the port, locked in a shipping container. Rolling patrols are day and night, both Fang and human combined. The trick is some bitches were blending in with the workers. Great way to remain unnoticed. This is where Deputy Dickhead may actually be of some use. I had him go get a warrant due to suspicion of illegal drugs coming into port. That was actually true, but not my jurisdiction. While he was off doing that, I was back preparing our advance on the port, checking maps for avenues of approach and possible diversions required for such an extraction. Shock and all wasn't going to cut it this time. We know Fangs will be there by nightfall for shift, so daylight would be the best chance to infiltrate. We won't be able to extract during the daytime due to the cause of the warrant and the lack of knowing who is who. We don't need any loose ends. So I went ahead and prepared the old shit bag with all the standard Fang essentials. Hollow point holy water bullets for a standard issue 9mm. That way we're both covered and nothing is visually suspicious. Chainmail under the shirts for bat prevention, and some tasers, silver blades, and UV flashlights. We were going for an in and out clean operation. Nothing lethal to prevent the risk of next day media freakout. HQ won't be sending a cleanup crew for this one. Deputy whatever picked me up in his squad car and we were on our way. Once we arrived to the port and flashed the warrant, we were allowed to investigate the containers and grounds with supervision of the port master, of course. Unaware to myself that we were being led away from the container, then out of the absolute blue, Deputy Dingleberry surprised me. He went off about obstruction of justice and that he needed to have all containers open for inspection. That got the port master on the radio fast as hell. When he was getting them all open for us to see, I noticed in the distance that one container was being hoisted by the crane. Once I clocked the number on the side of it, and we inspected a handful for show, we went on our merry way. Container number 1477. We prepared for our advancement for nightfall and staged out a few blocks back, watching to see who's coming and going from the port. I must have counted at least 24 heads clocking in. No clue on which ones are Fang. This is going to be a bigger pain in the ass than I thought. Once shift change was over, Deputy Woods' nuts and I sprung into action, hugging the wall, leading to the gate, waiting for the opportunity to slide in. Now, I know some of you still believe that Fang have some super sense of smell and hearing, that they could have been alerted to us. First of all, you are correct. Second of all, I didn't account for that. Not that I wasn't aware of the shit show, we were just out of time. We needed to be silent as possible, so the UV lights were our way in. We fried the faces off a few Fang while entering the gate. They screamed until I plunged a silver blade in their heart. Minimal casualties went out the window right then. We still utilized the silence, making our way through several groups of Fang as we made it to container 1477. It was placed all the way in the back, near the crane. We could see it opening as we approached. Little Eleanor ran out of there as fast as she could, straight towards us. She looked fine. A little dirty, but overall safe. Man, was I wrong. She ran so damn fast and latched right onto Detective recently deceased, tearing through his throat like she had been starved for weeks. Right then I knew this had to have been her first meal. Completely sloppy. Once she had him on the ground and he quit squirming, she jumped off in a gaze of, oh fuck, wrong one. Apparently, I was the target. Just then I got knocked over the head and blacked out. When I come to, I was expecting Vlad to be there. Nope. Just some Edward looking thing that was way too into tween novels. Apparently Vlad wasn't supposed to be there at all, and she was just bait for me. These some bitches wanted information on the organization, and according to Twinklefuck, I've been on their radar since I came strolling into town. Now doesn't this beat all? All this time and all I needed to do was get busted. It does break my heart about poor Eleanor, though. Of course, they attempted to beat the information out of me, even threatening to turn me. Hell, I'd be all for it. There's a half-vamp fellow that works for the organization that busts skulls left and right. I'd go for a leg up any day. Well, needless to say, all their abuse and threats were for nothing. Except one. Eleanor. She couldn't have been over a day turned, and her bloodthirst was increasing by the second. They were going to make that little girl feast on me, and I couldn't have that. Those bastards had her come into wherever the fuck we were. God, she still looked like the sweet little girl. Blonde curly hair and blue bows. The works. The worst part about it, there was nothing I could do about it. She gave me that sweet childish smile, like she was just given a pony for her birthday. And just before she went in for the first bite, she shot me a wink. Then, she dug in. First, she went for my chest, and that hurt like a motherfucker. And after a few seconds of her chomping, she clenched onto my throat. I didn't feel it first, but after a few seconds, a wave of extreme pain overwhelmed me and I passed out. Now obviously I woke up from that. I was in a shallow grave, hungry. Son of a bitch, she turned me. It's gotta be why she shot me that wink. I was intended to be a meal. As I crawled out of what would have been my final resting place, I headed to the port. Apparently now they can smell me. As I approached the gate, I noticed the calendar on the wall of the guard shack. It's been 2 fucking days. I need to see if Eleanor's still here. And as I make my way back to where the deputy and I first encountered Eleanor, I was stopped by some lone fang. He just started welcoming me to the family, saying I need to feed before the night ends, to make sure it sticks. To make sure what sticks? Well, apparently vampirism is temporary, unless you feed. I had no clue. I don't know when it'll wear off. All I know is I'm growing hungrier and hungrier by the second. I had asked where everyone was. Apparently, they were over at the crane. Makes sense why they're moving it away for her inspection. I need to get to Eleanor. I made my way to the crane. Still approach with caution. Most of these assholes think I'm dead. My only hope is just waltz in and prepare for a shit show. The difference is, I'm stronger and faster this time around. I gauge my surroundings, looking for anything to use as a weapon. And all I managed to find was some scrap metal. Shit, as long as it had a sharp edge, I don't give a shit. Heading to the base level of the crane. Now there were only a handful of them. Now they didn't seem threatening. I took the weapon into my pants and I'd asked where Eleanor was. All I got was a finger pointing to the top of the crane. I thanked the fang and made my way to the ladder. I was abruptly stopped. Apparently, this was going to become some game of death situation. For those of you who catch the reference, thank you. I whipped out the piece of shit I found on the ground and I went to town on these worthless fangs. The amount of power I felt at that time was terrifying. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on how those poor bastards were ended. Let's just say it looked like the prom scene from Carrie. And I went my merry way up the ladder. The main control room was empty, except for Eleanor. I started in on my profanities as to why the fuck was I turned and how she was dead meat. She hushed me pretty quickly with the tears in her eyes. She pleaded to me that she hates this feeling. She only turned me because I was already there to help her. She needed me alive to help her. She already fed, so there's no going back. All she wanted was to see her mother again. She's gonna let me do her in, no questions asked. She only wanted to see her mom one last time. I can't tell her no. Last request and all. I didn't really have to sneak her out of there. No one really knew what happened in the crane that night. Before I took Eleanor to see her mother one last time, I had to call Cheryl, tell her the news. Her daughter was on death row, and I was her executioner. I had to give a pep talk to Eleanor as well. She had to fight back her hunger if I was going to allow her to see her mother. She nodded in agreement, tears growing in her baby blues. Luckily, the car was still parked at the spot I was staying, and I grabbed a few necessities. During our drive, she had mentioned that she knew she was meant for Vlad. I didn't know why, but she didn't like the sound of it. I kind of shrugged it off, kind of my way of saying it's not her problem anymore. I shot her a smile and told her to keep her chin up. Now, I'm gonna be honest here. I'm having second thoughts on killing this little girl. We pulled up the drive and asked little miss if she was ready. Before we reached the door, she had asked me if I had to put her down. I teared up a little bit. She was just too damn special. You know, how can this little girl get to me like this? Oh yeah, she turned me. I at least had a way out. I couldn't say anything. We reached the threshold of the doorway, and Cheryl swept the door open before I could even knock. Of course, tears began. Incoherent apologies between the both of them, so loud I couldn't even think straight. I kept my cool. I stifled my hunger the best I could, but Eleanor had other plans. All she said was, "Please don't hurt us, Mr. Higgins," just before she bore down onto her mother's neck. Not gonna lie, I didn't see this coming. I panicked and I tried to pry Eleanor off her mother. You know, for a 6-year-old, she has pretty damn good grip. Finally, she released and just looked at me with her mother strained on the floor. She said now she doesn't have to be apart from her mother. God damn it. This was too much for me, especially after Rosco Jr. I had to get Eleanor and her mother out of there. I loaded her mother's soon-to-be undead corpse into my trunk and had Eleanor ride shotgun. I had to call this into HQ. I managed to get them into a witness protection system under the agency, under the condition that they helped them get Vlad. The last time I saw that little girl, she just smiled at me and shot me a wink. It's been quite a while now, and I'm still feeling some side effects of being turned. I only hope that when time comes and the agency catches up to Vlad, that they don't run out of a use for Eleanor and her mother.